So I'm here at CARMAX today because they just released their earnings and they were an absolute disaster. Their stock price fell by 20% in just one day. Their auto loan delinquencies are going up, but their repo rates are staying flat. Well, that doesn't really make sense. And year to date, CarMax's stock is down by about 50%. The average price of their vehicles actually went down over the quarter, but they still lost sales. So I'm a used car dealer that sells cars that are $5,000 and under, and I can tell you that CarMax's customer is very similar to mine. And over the last 6 months, we've been very, very slow. So here at CarMax, you can buy this used 4Runner with 30,000 miles for $50,000. CarMax's stock reached lows that it hasn't seen since March of 2020, and we all know what was going on in 2020. So one thing that's interesting is that CarMax's stock hit a low price that we haven't seen since March of 2020. What was going on in 2020? Well, everyone thought that the world was going to shut down. No one was going to buy anything. No one was going to spend any money. All the companies that were trading on the stock market, everything was going to zero, right? That's what everyone thought. That is how bad this car market is right now, where the panic that we had back then, we're now hitting the same low of that panic right now here in the car market. And you have to think of what's going on in the stock market right now. We're consecutively putting record high, record high, record high, record high, and CarMax is doing the absolute inverse of this. They're going back to the lows of the most fear that, at least in my lifetime of paying attention to the stock market, that we've seen. And I can tell you that there's nothing on the horizon that's going to make any of this better. We already had pull forward in demand, and even with that pull forward in demand from a lot of fear and tariff buying, well, that still hasn't buoyed enough of sales for CarMax for their stock price to hold stable. No, this is a bad setup. Investors know it. We can see it here. CarMax knows it. CarMax is talking about how challenging it's going to be, and it's going to be for the next few quarters. This is a bad situation for the car market, and we can see it. We can see it right here. So let's look at this thing right here. This is a 2023 Toyota 4Runner Limited, high trim level, right? It's got 30,000 miles on it. This thing is $50,000. Oh my goodness. Okay, I know a lot of you are saying, okay, who would come to CarMax and pay $50,000 for a vehicle that's got 30,000 miles on it? Well, I can tell you what happens when people come to CarMax is, especially for a vehicle like that, they've probably already gone to Toyota and tried to buy that brand new Toyota 4Runner that has no miles on it, and it's probably not all that much more expensive than that 4Runner right there. But what happens is that consumer, they probably got denied credit through Toyota Financial, through whoever the Toyota franchise dealer is hooked up through to try to get them a loan. So they still want that nice, new-ish, at that point, Toyota 4Runner. So what do? Well, they come to a place like CarMax. And then when you come to CarMax, this is what you have to do. You have to come here, and if you have challenge credit, you get to pay 23% interest. Or if you just have fair credit, you pay 17% interest. And I'm assuming that customer that tried to get that Toyota loan but got denied, well, they're going to fall into that fair or less than that for one of these vehicles. And this is how CarMax can sell a lot of these vehicles for outrageous prices, because a lot of those consumers that get turned away, well, CarMax writes a lot of their own notes. In a lot of ways, they're just a massive glorified buy here, pay here dealer. They write their own notes, they hold their own loans, they can choose who they approve, who they don't approve, and the customers who don't get approved, that don't have top tier credit, they can come here, they can still get a nice vehicle. Problem is, well, when there's cracks in the car market, when there's cracks in credit, when consumers stop paying their bills, well, those are the first ones that go that route are the ones that CarMax deals with. This is the subprime of the subprime consumers. And this is why we're having a whole lot of hurt here. This is why we have CarMax who is down so much. We have investors that know that the automotive lending space is not a good space right now. And let's throw out just sales over the last quarter that weren't good. The stock price is down 50% year to date. It's because investors know the car market lending space is a very bad space. We've seen lots of cracks. We've seen bankruptcies. We've seen problems with auto loan delinquencies. And now CarMax is experiencing that because that Toyota 4Runner that no one else would lend that customer, well, Customer can come here, maybe not the best of credit, maybe not the most secure of loans to be written. CarMax is going to give them that loan, and they keep doing this. They keep doing this. They keep selling these nice trucks to people who can't go to Ford, they can't go to GM, they can't go to Stellantis to actually get these loans. They can get them here. That's a dangerous place to be in. So one thing I want to point out while I'm here at CarMax is their actual average selling price went down over the quarter. And usually in the car market, I'm a used car dealer, sell cars are $5,000 and under. Whenever I want to move more volume, when I want to sell more cars, well, I lower the price of my vehicles. So you would assume that if a place like CarMax actually had their retail transaction price go down, then that should give them more volume, more transactions. But it actually did not. Their sales went down over the quarter. And this is a problem, because they're going to have to find that price point where consumers will actually start saying yes, when they can actually start moving some metal. And I can tell you, we're probably nowhere near that. Now, one thing that has been a big problem for the car market over the last couple months is a massive pull forward in demand. And CarMax, they talked about this. They said the quarter was challenging, and then they called up that, okay, a lot of this fear buying that was induced from people trying to get ahead of tariffs, well, that pulled forward a lot of these consumers. This is what we've talked about a long time on this channel, is that if you have a lot of these consumers that would be buyers throughout the year, but they were all pushed forward to get ahead of tariffs because they were worried about the prices spiking, well, then you're going to have a vacuum of buyers on the other side. And that's what we're experiencing right now. This is what CarMax is experiencing right now. This is what a lot of manufacturers we're seeing from dealerships like Ford, like GM, like Stellantis. This is what a lot of those dealership bodies are experiencing now too. Ford in their last quarter, they reported record sales, but that was because of all these allocations that were taken from these dealerships. And now Ford's dealer body is actually going up in day supply of inventory. That means that they're not moving these vehicles now. So now Ford, which had great couple quarters, now they're going to start showing the cracks in the car market. We're already seeing it here at CarMax, and we're going to start seeing it at all these other manufacturers, all these other dealership bodies. We've recently had a dealership file for bankruptcy, 65 locations shut down. The car market is a tough place right now. Just like CarMax said, very, very challenging. It's going to continue to be that way for the next few quarters, at least. And one thing that I think has come out recently that's very, very insane to me, and it reminds me a lot of what happened back in 2008 with the housing crisis. Well, right now, we're having auto loan delinquencies that are spiking. We can see it in the data. We see it from CarMax. We can see it from Carvana, two of the largest, if not the largest, used car dealers in the U.S., that their auto loan delinquencies are going up, but their repo rates are staying flat, and it's the same with both companies. Well, how can that be? That doesn't make sense. Yes, you're right, it doesn't make sense. If people are not paying their bills, if the amount of people that are 3 months behind on their car payments are going up, then shouldn't the repo rates be going up? Shouldn't CarMax and Carvana be repoing cars left and right? Yeah, they should be, but they're not. So there's two scenarios. They're just kicking the can down the road. But there's two scenarios why this could be happening. And the number one scenario is that CarMax and Carvana can know that a lot of these consumers are probably not going to pay their bills off. So what they're doing is they're allowing these customers just to keep their cars longer than they should, in the hopes that they can get one or maybe two more payments from these consumers, because they know that they're going to be losing a lot of money when they take these repos in. They have to dump them at auction because they're probably not going to be able to retail them again. They're probably not going to be in great shape. That's just how repos are in the system. And when people stop paying for their cars, well, they stop taking care of them. So maybe they're just trying to squeeze out any little bit of money that's left out of these customers. But you know what? I don't think that's the case. So what I think is actually happening in scenario two, I think that CarMax and Carvana are both thinking the exact same thing. And they're thinking that, okay, if we start raising these alarm bells about the R word, the repo crisis that could and should be occurring right now, then what's going to happen to our stock price? And at the end of the day, their number one objective is to keep their stock price as high as possible for their investors. And no one wants to hear the word repo crisis from a place who lends money. That's how they make a lot of their money, is actually by lending money on these cars. And if people aren't paying their bills, well, that's money that they should be making, but is not coming in. And then now we have to go get all these cars, and then we're going to take more losses on the back end when we have to go auction these cars off. And then the other negative that comes from that is that then you could flood the car market with these repos, these junk cars that a lot of dealers don't want, and that drives the value down of the vehicles. Well, guess what? CarMax, Carvana, they have tons and tons and tons of vehicles, so they don't want to do anything that's going to cause any kind of panic in the system that's going to push car prices down. That's even more money that they're going to lose because of all the cars that they have sitting on their lots right now. And then we'll take it even a step farther. If we have this auto loan repo crisis, well, then what happens to banks? Banks then start tightening up on their lending power. That pulls even more buyers out of the market. That makes car prices go down even further because dealers are still having a harder time actually moving metal. The only way that dealers are actually moving metal through the system is through loans. 80+% of buyers are payment buyers. It's going to be a big problem. We're putting a Band-Aid on it right now. We're kicking the can down the road. I've heard the phrase extend and pretend. That means we extend the loans and we pretend everything is fine until it's not, right? Big setup for disaster right here. So I'm a car dealer that sells cars that are $5,000 and under, and what I can tell you is that consumers that buy cars like mine are very similar to the consumers that go to CarMax and get loans from them. And what I can tell you is that over the last 6 months, I've been very, very, very slow. Even so, over the last 6 months, I have made $0. That's something that I haven't been able to say over the last 14 years of me being in business. And I can tell you that CarMax is feeling this similar type of strain right now where they're not selling a lot of vehicles. And here's the thing, when we have downturns in the economy, when we have downturns in the car market, well, consumers like mine, consumers like CarMax's, those are the ones that get hit first, and those are the ones that get hit the hardest. So this is an uphill battle for me, for CarMax right now in this car market, and it's going to be something that's going to keep happening and keep being more uphill and more uphill for the foreseeable future, because there's nothing on the horizon that's getting better for consumers just like mine who buy cars that are $5,000 and under, and just like CarMax's who go and get loans that have 20% interest. This is absolutely insane for them to be able to even survive in this economy right now. Very, very difficult for us. But we have this other problem that's going on in the market too, where you're having some banks, because volumes aren't happening, we see volume that went down here at CarMax, that they're actually loosening their standards. Wells Fargo just came out and said that, okay, we are increasing the LTV, the loan to value that we're able to loan to subprime consumers. These are consumers that have like under a 550 credit score, where they'll go up to 150%. This is a problem we saw about 2-3 years ago, where you were getting a lot of these consumers into vehicles and you're allowing dealers to charge way over value for them, and the banks were just loaning on them. Well, the banks tightened up. They saw that this was a problem, but now we're seeing a little bit of a reversion. You also see from Ford Credit that they're loosening the requirements to get one of these F-150s, and this can only end in one way, right? We have vehicles that are way too expensive. You have the ability now as a dealer to charge way over what the car is worth, and then you have banks that are allowing people with lower credit scores to actually get approved for these loans. Why would these banks be doing this? Well, I mean, there's one reason. They need auto loans on their books. People aren't buying vehicles because they're so expensive. So what do? Well, you loosen your requirements. You write some loans that might not be the best secure on paper, and you allow some of the consumers that are a little bit more foolish with their money to spend up on these vehicles that they are paying way too much for. We just keep going in this cycle, and in a lot of cases I want to blame the consumer, and it really is at the end of the day the consumer's fault, because they're the ones that are actually signing the paper and signing up for these loans. But it's almost like I'm a father. I have a young son. It's almost like just giving him as much candy as he wants when I know it's bad for him. He's making the decision to eat the candy, right? But if I'm just piling him full of candy, all the candy that he wants, what is he going to do? And in a lot of cases, I think that's what these banks are doing. They're literally just giving these people all this candy. And it's very difficult for a lot of these consumers to know what they're doing and know what they're signing up for. And by the time that they figure it out, oftentimes it's too late. It's scary.